Hello there, and welcome to Gina Gardiner Friends. And I'm absolutely, well, beside myself with thrilledness to have Jill Lublin on my show. She's an amazing lady, best-selling author, a publicist in terms of strategy. She's an international kindness guru. She's set up a whole project around kindness, and she is just a wonderful human being. Jill, I'm so pleased to have you on the show.
Thank you, Gina. I'm delighted to be here.
So before we get started, just tell people a bit about how you've come to be here. What's your story?
So, my story, like everyone's, is a bit circuitous about how I ended up in the world of publicity. I actually started in the music business as director of promotion and publicity at independent record labels. I love that, did it for years. And then I burnt out, which is very easy to understand about that business. But, in that, I really learned about the power of perception. That led to me writing guerrilla publicity and all the blessings there from that. And then I had 3 more books, the latest of which is called The Prophet of Kindness. So to that end, I speak all over the world on 6 continents up to this moment, and teach and train in virtual publicity classes.
That's an amazing CV, isn't it? And I suppose your professional life is incredibly impressive. But for me, the thing that makes the biggest difference is your work on kindness, because I think the world needs more kindness. It doesn't have to cost anything other than being really mindful of how you can help somebody else. And for me, that's so important.
And it's such an easy thing. People, I don't know what people think they have to do, but honestly, a smile, opening the door, or what I like to call, Gina, a conscious act of kindness, right? I know people talk about random acts, and that's good too. That's good too. But I really think conscious acts of kindness are key. And so just every day, think about, did I do one thing that was kind today? Now, most people are doing many things. They just haven't been conscious about it. But, if you put your attention on what's the one thing, if I've done one kind thing today, just make sure of it. And if you haven't, you get to the end of your day, I send a text, I write a card, I send a nice email. There's such easy things to do to acknowledge people. And that's a very kind thing to do too, the acknowledging of people.
I think that's really important. My brother died very suddenly when he was 49, and the anniversary of his death is at the end of this week. And perhaps that's why he's on my mind. But one of the things my brother was incredibly good at doing is he would send a text and it would have 3 characters, just LUV, or it would just be thinking of you, or just 3 kisses. And how long does that take? And yet, when he died, that was one of the things that gave me such comfort, is that I knew that he loved me and that he was consciously thinking of me on a regular basis. And how many people have regrets that they don't say the things that they wish they had done when people were alive? Just that conscious kindness to people that that you care, that you're thinking of them, can make all the difference, can't it?
It's an incredibly simple thing, and such a beautiful way that we can all make a difference in this world. Just doing that forward. Oh my gosh, I know people talk about pay it forward, but again, just what can you do without any expectations? And of course, what that does. That inspires others to do things too, right?
That's wonderful. Tell us about your project, your kindness project, because it seems to me that that's something that has such a high vibration and has such power behind it. And I think people should be really involved in it.
Yes, thank you. So I run, I call it the year of kindness, but we're on our 3rd year now. It started in COVID. I had wanted to do something. When I wrote The Prophet of Kindness, I was inspired. It was one of those whispers from God that said, go do kindness circles. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. But all I knew is I was busy, promoting my book and speaking and all these wonderful things in publicity. And then all of a sudden when COVID hit, I thought, now's the moment. And so I put together a kindness circle. And when 60 people showed up on the first call, I thought, okay, we're on to something. Well, now we're over 250 in the community. I want to double it to 500 and more by the end of 2022. And I'd love kindness keepers all around the world, whatever, that looks like, whether it's licensed or however it comes about, I am happy. And so one of the things I know, and maybe we'll have in the show notes, a way that people can come join us for Year of Kindness, test drive it, see if you like it. So that's really fun. And I always invite people to come as my guest to one of the kindness circles. And what we do is we spend an hour together on Zoom, and we have two breakout circles, and one 10-minute like amazing speaker in the area of personal growth. Or I had Marcy Scheimoff, who wrote Happy for No Reason, and she's been a featured teacher in The Secret, just an amazing woman.
I know Marcy, she is just wonderful, isn't she?
Isn't she awesome? So I have great people, so come play with us. You always get to meet and greet all kinds of new people. And I actually do facilitate networking. I think it's really important that we connect together, we be kind to each other, and it's set up and structured to do that.
That's brilliant. Now, we're on radio, and so people can't see the address, but we're going to have a short break now. And during the break, what I suggest is if you get a piece of paper and a pen, then I will let you know the address where you can actually sign up for one of these kindness circles, because they're a great thing to do. So, kindness circles. And if you're interested in joining, then the address is http:// with a J, Jill, Lublin, lublin.com/YOFK, and then the word guest. It's all one continuous word, lowercase. So it's http://jilllublin.com/YOFK guest. So YOFK is Year of Kindness. So it's really easy to remember. So please do sign up. And when you do, please say that you heard about it on Gina Gardiner and Friends, so Jill knows how that sphere of influence has actually been expanded through this show. Now, kindness is one of the things that many people find so much easier to give than to receive or give themselves. I wonder what your take is on being kind to oneself.
Yes, the thing that most people forget about, you mean? Because it's so important to give to others, isn't it? And I find that most people are naturally wanting to give to others. What's so fascinating to me is, are you giving to yourself? How's your self-care? How's your space for yourself? One of my clients, she has 4 young children, and I'm like, and in the middle of a divorce, and, right? And I'm like, I can hear the exhaustion in her voice, and it's understandable, but, and I keep saying to her, what are you doing to be kind to yourself? She finally went and got massages now on a weekly basis. Now that's super kind, right? But it took that level of, oh my gosh, almost falling apart to get to that. So please don't wait till that long. I want all of you to think about right now, how can I be more kind to myself? What's the most kind thing I can do for myself right now? Sometimes that's pick up the phone, talk to a friend, go outside, take a walk, go hug my cat. For me, I love doing that. What is it that you can do to be kind to yourself? And I think when you start asking yourself that question, some activities you do might change. And sometimes it includes canceling things. Listen, Gina, I've had to cancel some things occasionally on clients where, I couldn't give anything.
Yeah.
Maybe it was a publicity consulting strategy. And if I'm not, shall I call it, in my best self, able to give, able to connect, how can I support? So I just think that's important.
I often talk about the fact that if you were pouring water into a glass and you turn the tap off, and drink the water, you'd very quickly empty the glass. But if you keep the tap running, then very quickly it will overflow. And if you then think about that as being kind to yourself and then using the overflow for other people, then it's limitless. But I'm interested, how often people are actually not just neutral, they are very unkind to themselves. They use a criteria to judge themselves that's very different to the criteria that they use for everybody else, that they are unfair and unreasonable about themselves and keep beating themselves up. They'd never do that to somebody else, would they?
No, of course not. And so, one of the things I remember doing a long time ago for myself was I actually, the publicity was for everybody. As an example, I would serve clients and get them out there and help them with creating that visibility. And then one day I realized, oh my gosh, I had my own book, Guerrilla Publicity, I had to promote. And I actually made a file for myself. Like that was a game changer for me. Oh, wow, I have a file for myself. Isn't that interesting? So that's a question. Maybe you need to make a file, however you want to think about this, for yourself. And so in your calendar, in your day calendar, I want you to put you in your schedule. So for me, when you look, it says meditation, it says exercise, it says meet with friends, things are built in so that I have space. And by the way, I had to take another crack at this, again, recently, realizing that I didn't want to keep up a certain schedule I was keeping up. And so now no calls start before a certain time, no working more on Saturdays where I can help it, right? With, again, as one of my coaches says, 80% of the time the rules work, so the good 80% is great. And if I choose to make an exception, that's different.
It's something that I talk to my clients a lot about, and how often people find it very difficult to do that. So I talk about being your own best friend and treating yourself as you would a really valued friend, no better, but no worse. And in terms of time, making appointments with yourself and putting those in your diary, because if you feed yourself in terms of your emotional and mental and spiritual and physical health, then you've got much more to give other people. And just a little tip for those of you who are listening, if you really struggle to do this, one of the things that one of my clients decided to do was she'd always wanted to be called by another name. And so she used her alter ego as her appointments in her diary. So although her name was one thing, in her diary periodically during the week would be an appointment with, I think the name that she wanted to be was Sarah. And of course, Sarah was her, but she found it easier to put it in for her alter ego than she had to put it in for herself. Ultimately, I think one of the important lessons is learning to say no, but do it graciously and do it without feeling guilty. Rather than putting everybody else at the head of the priorities. So tell us more about your book, The Profit of Kindness. That's a really interesting title.
Oh, thank you. It is an interesting title, and it's interesting because I actually had something else in mind with the title when we first published it. And I love the fact that the publisher changed it to The Profit of Kindness. Why? Because profit and kindness seem like, well, antithesis words, but they're actually not, because what I'm really clear on now, having written the book, having talked to numerous companies, large and small, independent service providers plus large companies, here's what I learned. When you're more kind, you tend to not only be happier, more fulfilled, but also, wonderfully enough, more profitable. And so they do go together. And in the book, I outline what I call return on kindness principles. How, what are things you can do? Because everyone always wants ROI, as you should, return on investment. I also think people should have ROK, rocks, return on kindness principles. So things like flexibility, so important in these times, even more so. Patience. Oh my gosh, yes, that's a big one, right? Those are some examples of return on kindness.
I couldn't agree with you more. And I've worked for many years strategically with businesses. And for me, it's a big part of enlightened leadership, that actually coming from a place of compassion and kindness is one of the underpinning principles of enlightened leadership. And the results are quite incredible. But you have to model the behavior yourself. So it's being kind to your employees and your team, but kind to yourself too. And having a holistic approach where you treat people and you value them. They're your treasure. Look after them. Nurture them and their potential, and they will be more productive. They'll take less time off. And ultimately, they'll use their expertise, experience, and enthusiasm to make your business much more profitable.
Yes, yes. And again, that was the other thing is kind companies or CEOs, their people were always more fulfilled and happier, and the culture was better. So, I know it seems obvious, but people forget. And I think gentle reminders. And of course, when we become unkind or something happens and we get off balance, the kindest thing you can do is, what do I need to? Sometimes it's just about taking better care of yourself. I don't know about you, but I get a little snippy or impatient when I'm too tired or too hungry or too something, right?
And isn't it interesting that it's the simple things, I think, that people forget. And I saw a sea change after the recession in 2008-9. And I think so many businesses got caught up in we've got to make a profit, which of course businesses want to make a profit, but they forgot about the people, and it became very target driven. And as a result, people were put under pressure to meet targets which were not achievable, which put everybody under stress and under pressure. We're now in the final few minutes of the show, and before it gets too late, Jill, where can people find you?
Thank you. So best thing is to go to my website, jilllublin.com, and it's JILLLUBLIN.com. I'll also put, if you'd like, a free gift generally, and come be part of my publicity masterclass, and I'll type that in the chat and you can read it out, or whatever works best.
That would be lovely. If you'd put that in the chat, that would be great. I'd love to hear what you think. So if you email me at gina@genuinely-you.com, and how kind are you to yourself, and what are the things you find hard to be kind about? But if you'd like to join Jill's publicity crash course, then the address is http:// publicity crash course, or one word, publicitycrashcourse.com/free gift. And that's really kind of you. Thank you very much indeed. And if you are in business, then publicity is so important. An interesting thing is you can use kindness as part of your publicity. So we are very proud to be members of B1G1, Buy One, Give One, which is designed for businesses to help in projects around the world, and to do it no matter what size your business is, because in the way they organize the impacts, it makes it very affordable. And it can be a really great way of showing the public that you are a business that thinks about others, and does it in a strategic way. So B1G1, and every guest we invite them to choose a project for us to donate to. And the 4 projects for this month are clean water, food for the hungry, education, and there is a project for children in the Ukraine. Which of those projects would you like us to donate to on your behalf?
I think because of the timeliness of it, the children in Ukraine, please.
So we will be donating to that project. And for every 100 people who listen to either the live show or to one of the downloads in the archive, or through the podcast, or through one of the apps, the Radio Box Online or TuneIn, we will give a free meal to someone who's hungry through the B1G1 project. So please, you can help people by just listening, and that will make a huge difference. So Jill, in the last few minutes of the show, what pearls of wisdom have you got that will help people recognize different ways that they can be kind to others or to themselves?
So a couple things. I mentioned the return on kindness principles, and I would really encourage you to practice more patience. That's a biggie. That's a biggie. That means not only with others, but with yourself. And when you find yourself going into what I might call reaction, feeling impatient, like when I was writing the chapter on patience for Profit of Kindness, I remember calling the utility company. Well, that was a mistake. I was on hold for an hour. And I remember the operator came on and she said, "Thank you for your patience." And I said to her, just like, who said I was patient? I think if you're an entrepreneur, you're in business. But however, did I say anything mean to her? No, it was a joke. She laughed. It was great. And ha ha ha. But, I think it's always funny when people thank me for my patience when the plane is 3 hours late or something like that, right?
I had a very similar experience this weekend with my bank and filling out a visa application for the Ukrainian lady who's come to stay with me. And people thanking you for your patience when you've been hanging on for hours, it wears a little thin. Nevertheless, I think the recognizing that they're struggling at the other end, it's the system that's broken and not them, is really important. So
That's
can
for
you
sure.
give us another principle of kindness? How many are there, by the way?
There are 7, okay?
Okay.
And one of them is another, in addition to patience and flexibility that we spoke of, is generosity. Like, are you being generous? And if you are, how can you be more generous is what I'm going to ask you today. Like, I have a commitment to give a nonprofit a seat to my virtual publicity course every single month. Guess what? Sometimes we have to spend money actually finding that nonprofit for whatever reason. Maybe somebody didn't recommend one or whatever it is, right? So I'm going to say, how can you be more generous in addition to what you're already doing? How can you be more generous to yourself, right? My other commitment is I give 10% to charity every month. And what can I do? For me, it's not only writing a check, but it's also my time and money and energy in other ways. So look at generosity. Maybe a neighbor needs some help. Maybe, somebody needs help that isn't even asking, or you're thinking about someone wondering how they are. They just had an operation. Bring them a meal, different simple things that make a big impact.
I think that's really important. But what I'd like to add that is, if you're going to do things, do it with generosity of spirit. Don't do things half-heartedly or things in a resentful way. If you're going to do it full out, do it with purpose and do it with love. And you'll be amazed at how different the impact is on the people on the receiving end.
I love that. I love that. And Gina, though, I'm going to say one thing, because, listen, I'm busy. We're busy people. Here's what I've learned. If I leave something, like my neighbor whose husband has Alzheimer, I love to start this. We hadn't hardly talked in many years of living together, and I found this out. I left a meal. Actually, no, that's not true. I rang her bell. I gave her the meal. I said, "You know what? I'm in the middle of my workday, but I know what's happening, and I just want to support you." She burst into tears. And now, by the way, we're having dinner usually every month. We've formed this beautiful relationship. It started from, okay, I didn't have a ton of time, but I gave it to her with love, like you say. And she was very grateful. So here's what I want to say. You don't have to have a ton of time to do this. It can be very simple acts. And it's about the gesture, and people get the gesture, which I think is what you're talking about, the purpose behind it, the love behind it. But I'm also going to add in there, it doesn't always take a ton of time, and you don't have to get in this headspace like, oh, I have to take a ton of time to do this. I think people understand we're all busy, but certainly the gestures are what's so heartfelt and inspiring and impactful.
Yeah. Even just being present for people, holding the space and listening. I had a very interesting experience yesterday with my lady who's came to stay with me on Saturday. Now, we'd never met. We don't know each other. She's come through the host scheme in the UK from Ukraine through very difficult circumstances. And yesterday we went to do the official stuff. We went to sign up at the doctor's and sign for a bank account and get her sorted out for a SIM card. And what made the day, and there was a lot of hanging about and a lot of form filling and a lot of questions, but what made the day special was that everybody smiled and went out of their way, even though they knew she spoke no English. they went out of their way to make her feel welcome. And I was really heartened by that. It gave me a lovely, warm, fuzzy feeling. And I think that, okay, these are exceptional circumstances, but how can you do that to the people that you know just on a daily basis? And just as you started, as we're going to finish the show as we started, if you smile at people, you don't know if you're the only person that has had interaction with that person all day. That whatever you do, be kind to yourself and be kind to others. So Jill, all it remains for me to do is to say a huge thank you for your kindness in joining us on this show. It's always a pleasure to talk to you. I feel really very fortunate to call you my friend. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Gina. Always a delight to be here.
Thank you. And thank you for listening. Please join us on another show. Let us know what you think. And I look forward to hearing from you. You take care now. Bye-bye.